All right, let's take a journey back in time. We're heading to the year 1757, deep into the American wilderness, right into the thick of the brutal French and Indian War. Now, this isn't just some action-adventure story we're exploring today. No, we're diving into something much deeper, a story that's really a powerful look at conflict, at survival, and at the truly heartbreaking loss of an entire world.
I mean, just listen to that quote for a second. The bloody arena. That says it all, doesn't it? This gives you a real sense of the setting. We are not talking about some pristine, untouched paradise here. The vast forests between the French and English colonies had become a battleground, the place where two massive empires were clashing for the future of a continent.
So our story kicks off with a journey, as many great tales do. But you can forget any ideas of a pleasant trip through the woods. This path is treacherous from the very first step, a desperate trek to a fort under siege, all led by a guide whose real motives are as dark and tangled as the forest itself.
So, who exactly is on this dangerous trip? Well, first we have Cora and Alice Munro, the daughters of a high-ranking British commander. Cora, she's the resolute, dark-haired one, while her half-sister Alice is fair and maybe a bit more fragile. Their protector is Major Duncan Hayward, a very loyal, very by-the-book British officer. And then there's their guide, a Huron warrior named Magua. He's the one who's promised to lead them on a secret shortcut, a path but little known.
You know that gut feeling you get when something's wrong? Well, Cora's is screaming at her from the very beginning. She senses the danger in Magua's eyes, in his attitude. She turns to Hayward and basically says, "Hey, are you absolutely sure about this guy?" But the Major, full of military confidence, completely dismisses her concerns. And wow, is that a fatal miscalculation? And wouldn't you know it, Cora was 100% right. Magua wasn't a guide, he was a trap. He leads them straight into an ambush. It turns out his loyalty was a complete act, a cover for this burning personal need for revenge against their father, Colonel Munro. Just when the trap is sprung and it looks like it's all over, three figures seem to just materialize out of the woods. And here they are, the legendary trio. First, there's Hawkeye, a man of two worlds, white by birth, but he was raised in the wilderness, and his skills are all native. With him are his closest friends in the world, Chingachgook, the stoic and powerful chief of the Mohicans, and his son, Uncas. Uncas is swift, noble, and really represents the last great hope for his people. These three, they are the true masters of this forest, and they've just become the sisters' only chance for survival. After a pretty desperate fight and a narrow escape, the group finally makes its way toward their destination. But they've really just traded one kind of danger for another. The very personal threat of Magua's trap now gives way to the vast, impersonal horror of all-out war. They arrive at Fort William Henry to find a truly desperate situation. Colonel Munro is inside with a small garrison, but he's completely surrounded by a massive French army under General Montcalm. We're talking 10,000 men. Their only hope is that General Webb, stationed at a nearby fort, will send reinforcements. But Webb, with thousands of his own men, makes a catastrophic decision. He refuses to help. He just leaves them there. Can you even imagine that moment? Munro has been holding on. His men are starving, they're exhausted, and they're waiting for that relief column to appear on the horizon. But the message that finally gets through isn't from an approaching army. No, it's a letter from Webb himself, and it's delivered by the French. It advises Munro to make a speedy surrender. He's been completely and utterly abandoned by his own command. With his position now totally hopeless, the French general Montcalm offers what seem to be incredibly generous terms. See, he's a man of European military tradition. He offers Munro and his people their lives and their honor. He says they can march out of the fort with their flags flying, holding their personal weapons, their dignity intact. In a hopeless situation, it looks like a lifeline. Munro has no choice but to accept. The treaty is signed, the gates of the fort swing open, and this long, defeated column of soldiers, women, and children begins its march to safety. But an honorable promise made by a European general is about to be completely consumed by the brutal, bloody realities of frontier warfare. You have to understand, Montcalm's native allies, the Hurons, they feel cheated. They didn't fight this bloody siege for a polite ceremony. They fought for the spoils of war, for weapons, for captives, for revenge. So when they see the British just marching away with all their possessions, their rage just boils over. The fragile peace shatters into 1,000 different acts of barbarity, like this one, where a simple tug on a woman's shawl leads to a mother's absolute worst nightmare. And the scale of this horror is just immense. You have nearly 3,000 people, soldiers who are barely armed, women, children, all trapped on an open plain, suddenly attacked by hundreds of furious warriors. The honorable surrender descends into a full-blown massacre. And here is where fiction shines a light on a really dark corner of history, because this scene in the novel is based on a real, infamous event. It's known as the Massacre of William Henry. It was a moment of such brutality that it became a rallying cry for the British and left a deep, dark stain on the legacy of the entire war. So, in the middle of this unimaginable chaos, Magua sees his opportunity. For him, this wasn't just about the spoils of war. It was always personal. He seizes Cora and Alice, the daughters of the man he hates more than anyone, and just vanishes back into the forest. His revenge is finally within his grasp. The fight for the fort is over, but the real story is just getting started. Hawkeye, Chingachgook, and Uncas now begin this desperate pursuit, tracking Magua and his captives deep into Huron territory. Their mission, to rescue the sisters and confront a fate that has been long in the making. So the chase builds to its inevitable climax. It's a collision of two incredibly powerful forces. On one side, you have Magua, driven by this twisted, burning need for vengeance. He doesn't just want to kill Monroe's daughters. He wants to humiliate the colonel forever by forcing Cora to be his wife. And against him is Uncas, driven by his unwavering code of honor and this profound, unspoken love he feels for Cora. And it all ends on a cliff's edge. Magua gives Cora a final choice: be his wife or die. She refuses him. As one of Magua's men moves to kill her, Uncas, who has fought his way to her side, leaps to her defense, but he's overwhelmed and he's stabbed. Cora, seeing her only protector fall, doesn't scream. She simply awaits the final blow, which comes just moments later. It's a swift, brutal, and utterly heartbreaking end. Hawkeye and Chingachgook arrive just moments too late. They manage to dispatch Magua in a final act of vengeance, but it's completely hollow. The victory is meaningless. They failed to save Uncas and Cora, and the silence that falls over that cliff is heavier and more terrible than any battle cry. This quote, it just captures the aftermath so perfectly. There is no celebration of victory among the Delaware, who were the allies of the Mohicans. The death of Uncas isn't just a personal loss. It's a devastating blow to the entire nation. The fiercest warriors, they set aside their pride and they join in this collective, profound mourning. And now the true meaning of the title becomes devastatingly clear. With Uncas gone, the noble line of chiefs is broken. A father has outlived his only son, and a proud nation has lost its future. Chingachgook is now alone. He is the last of the Mohicans. Ultimately, this story, for all its action and romance, is an elegy. It's a song of sorrow. The personal tragedy of Uncas and Cora is a powerful metaphor for a much larger, historical one, the displacement and the cultural destruction of Native American peoples. And it leaves us with this haunting question, an echo from a lost world in the American wilderness. What is left behind when an entire way of life just vanishes from the earth?